Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 611 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. I'm noticing I'm a little low on the screen. I might need a booster seat.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Today, recording day is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. And I believe it is day 4 on the election campaign. Maybe 5 if you count Sunday. Yeah, 5 if you count Sunday, because you always count the first day in Canadian elections. So, yeah, getting close to, well, it's a mid full. Let's put it this way. It sure has been a mid-full. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
Well, I woke up at 4:30 this morning with a migraine, and my back is killing me. So mental health, I think, is a little testy because of that. Not enough sleep and in a lot of pain. Still have a bit of a migraine. So my attitude might not be the best today. I'm trying real hard to improve, but there's a good chance my blue jacket may be put on.
Okay.
Just let's put it that way. I'm mental health wise, I'm not feeling depressed or despair or anxious, but because of a lack of sleep, I'm
punch drunk.
Well, I wouldn't say that. More along the lines of easily irritated.
Okay.
Right? Very short fuse today, so I'm trying to keep it within myself.
Ooh, I might not have the content for you today.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, hold on.
I know.
Duck here.
There's a good chance I'll put the old blue jacket on. I got a puppy dog sleeping at my feet here, so that helps.
There might be a few F-bombs, but let's start off with some good stuff. Quick little tidbits, because we like to look at democracy around the world. The country of Namibia elected its first female leader, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, I believe. Ndaitwah, sorry, I remember. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah was sworn in as Namibia's first female leader I believe this was on March 21st. It seems that she finally reached the highest office of the land nearly 60 years after she joined the liberation movement fighting for independence from apartheid South Africa. She is 72 years old, and she's just one of a handful of female leaders in Africa after the likes of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who's probably the most well-known, of Liberia, Joyce Banda of Malawi, and Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania. So, Her swearing-in ceremony coincided with the 35th anniversary of Namibia's independence, but the ceremony was switched from a soccer stadium where thousands were due to attend to the official presidential office because of heavy rain, unfortunately. She made her pledge to support the Constitution in front of other visiting leaders from South Africa, Zambia, Congo, Botswana, Angola, and Kenya. And she succeeds Nangolo Mumumba, who had stood in as Namibia's president since February 24th, following the death in office of President Hage Geingob. And she was promoted to vice president following his death. And she says that she will be tackling, in particular, corruption and high unemployment. In other news about sisters doing it for themselves, we have a new head of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and her name, because for the first time ever in the organization's history, they will have a female president. Her name is Kirsty Coventry, and she replaces Thomas Bach, who was a fencer, I believe, from Germany. She is a swimmer from Zimbabwe, so she becomes the first female leader and the first leader from an African nation of the IOC. She is Africa's most decorated Olympian of all time. She won 7 medals across the 2004 Athens Games and 2008 Beijing Games. She is a swimmer. So we'll see if that brings some much needed changes to the International Olympic Committee, dealing with several issues, of course, and one of them being the participation of transgender non-binary athletes in sport, which I'm sure has become a really big issue with the Los Angeles Olympics coming up and a certain president. Yes. So welcome to the frying pan. Pretty much. But hey, again, history being made, right? So if you pay attention.
The Pointer Sisters song go, sisters are doing it for themselves.
Aretha Franklin and Annie Lennox.
Aretha, sorry.
Oh no, and the Eurythmics. Sorry, because yeah, it was both Eurythmics because there's a good guitar riff in that one. Oh, I love that song. And if you play it now, it sounds really current. Like there's nothing in the instrumentation that sounds really, yeah.
I heard it recently, which is why it was in my head, and it
has a little bit of
80s to me.
It does have a little bit of 80s, but I mean, that's sort of now like The Weeknd is using like Blinded by the Lights was like 80, very 80s sound and whatnot. And, a lot of that
sounded like Aha, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm noticing in a lot of the music that there's like, oh my God, Astrolight. I feel this groove. I'm just waiting for the, that core sample from house music back in the day, dun 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 dun, to come back. I want that. I like that one. That one just came to grab me, made me shake my hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's BKS, right?
Yeah. But that drum beat's in like pick a song from the 90s, and that same drum pattern was used, but that was specifically BKS.
I'm in love with you. Yeah, and then the dirty, sort of that dirty little boom, 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 boom. Oh yeah, that was my jam back in the day.
And Sandy Denny doing the vocals on that. That song still is a dance floor banger, and I've gone on YouTube finding better versions of it because I have it on 12-inch vinyl, but I wouldn't play it on my turntable. I've got like a high-end turntable. I'd only play that on an SL 1200 Techniques turntable because it's just designed to take a beaten up record and make it sound good. Whereas if you take an old beat up 12-inch and put it on your higher end table, which is designed to have like a pristine vinyl, you know what I mean? It's like, how could I put it? My turntable is designed to be a Ferrari, and an SL 1200 will drive anything from a Ferrari to a 72 Ford Pinto. It'll 1200s will play anything. That's why they're great turntables. And I'd like to get another one, but I've seen the prices on them. The resale market is insane, and the brand new ones are thousands of dollars. And I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
All right. Let's see who we have. Oh, we haven't done the magic mirror thing. Good morning, Kit Uncover. Good morning, Kit Cat W, Kit Saucy, Kit Mr. Jim. Hello, my friend. Kit T. Wigmore. Hello. Thank you for all the positive encouragement. Kit Elaine, we have with us. Kit Jillian, Kit Linda M, the original and the best. Kit Toronto Dan with us. Kit Hyper T 007 and Kit Jillian are here. Hello. Welcome to you both. Glad you can join us today. We have Kit Tavi G and Kit Wishful. Oh, we have Kit Sue Remen here. That's a new one for me. I'm not sure if you're new to the chat, but that's a new name. So if you're recently arrived here at the Beaver Lodge, pull up a log and make yourself comfortable. Stay a while. Nice to have you. Nona Carol, thank you. Nice to see you. Who else do we have? Kit Argosy Acres with us this morning. Hello. Anybody else coming in at the last minute for hello? Going through. If you want your there we go. Kit Gold Dragon and Kit Angela. Hey, hello, Kit Jordan's mom. Nice to see you today. And okay, that's everybody in. If you you have to wait till next time if you want to be mentioned on the show. But thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, getting right in it as we do every morning during the election period here for you. Again, with our usual caveat, the polling data, not to tell you or make you feel complacent, but for you to understand the context in which certain things are being said. All right, used as fuel. According to the people at Polling Canada, only one new poll came in. It's a Polara poll that shows the Liberals with a lead of +9, which is the highest now of any ever recorded. They say it's a very good poll for the Liberals, so much so that it increases the Liberals' national lead from 4 points to 5. So that makes Liberals 42, Conservatives 37, the NDP 9, the Bloc Québécois 6%. Here, the Greens at 2.8, the People's Party at 2.4, and others at 0.9 is what is that saying. And when it comes to the seat count, that puts Liberals at 185, Conservatives at 126, the Bloc at 22, NDP at 8, and the Greens at 2. There doesn't remain no changes from yesterday, basically. Everything remains stable. For the poll tracker on CBC, another 0.4% gain for the Liberals in the top line number, bringing the Liberals to a clear 40%, right on the nose, with CBC poll tracker, which is, again, I don't remember last time a polling aggregator showed 40 for the Liberals. That'd be a long while. With the Conservatives unchanged at 37.3, the New Democrats down 0.3 to 9.8, the Bloc Québécois at 6.4, Greens at 3.2, the People's Party at 2.2, and others at 1.1. That translates to 184 seats for the Liberals, 130 for Conservatives, 23 for the Bloc, 4 for the New Democrats, and 2 for the Greens. And finally, if we are looking at 338, that one has the vote projection for the Liberals, also in the aggregator above 40 at 41, has the Conservatives at 37, I believe. If I'm not mistaken here, yep, the NDP at 10, the Bloc at 6, Greens at 4, and the People's Party at 2. For seats, that's 185 for the Liberals, 127 for the Conservatives, 24 for the Bloc, 6 for the NDP, and then in this model, only 1 for the Greens. So in this one, one of the Greens, according to 338, will lose their seat, which is probably Mike Morris. It seems that he's in a pretty tough fight in Kitchener. So remember, kids and cubs, if you're voting strategically in Kitchener, your choice is actually the Green candidate, Mike Morris. In this one. They are showing the odds of winning the most seats for the Liberals now at about 97%. And the odds of a Liberal majority at 79%. That's 338. And for the poll tracker, 65% of the odds of a Liberals winning majority, 21% of the Liberals winning the most seats, but not a majority. The poll tracker only has the probability of the Conservatives having a choice, an option to form government in any way, shape, or form with a minority at 12% only, and 338 has a 2%.
Small.
So almost no chance, they're saying at the moment. Again, use as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular election too, it's all the more important because if as a nation we want to send a message down south, really high voter turnout and a whoops, camera's doing a little weird thing today. Really high voter turnout, and yeah, every now and then, sometimes the camera went stable, and every now and then it shuts off. Every now and then, and I just don't know why. I just have to monitor it when I see the screen get dark. Touch it, and
it's like you're a villain in the old Batman TV series. You know how they're always crooked.
Yes.
When you get to their lair, it was always at an angle, so you knew they were crooked.
Welcome to the Beaver Lodge.
Like the Crooked Kitchen at the Museum of Science.
Oh, I loved the Crooked Kitchen. That was so much fun.
When they rebuilt it, they actually talked about taking that out, and people lost their minds.
Yes.
They're like, okay, that was a bad idea then. Yeah, that was a terrible idea.
That's the fun for the. I mean, it's a lot of fun as a museum, but that's the fun part.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, again, high voter turnout and a very, very strong mandate like the one Doug Ford wanted, but didn't exactly get, would definitely send a big message to the United States. So, fuel, not comfort, fuel. Okay. But it does give a good idea that this hold and that little jump that we had the other day seems to be holding. We'll see what else happens because, as we said yesterday, Mr. Carney had a pretty bad day in Quebec, or a day that could be translated as bad. Yes. Not sure if he'll take a hit, not sure how much leeway they're willing to give at the moment, but right, you can't have too many of those. Let's just put it that way.
Well, he did, apologize for his.
Oh, yes.
That was big. That was a huge mess up on his part.
That's a big one.
No way around it. Screwed up her name. Screwed up the school. Like, bro, you gotta. You gotta.
And that's what I was saying. That when she was saying Emilie Nicolas says, he or Françoise Bovin, he may have just been freelancing at that moment. And it's like, oh, I know there's something like this. And I mentioned, thought he had it right. It's like, but yeah, on those, especially this type of thing, you have to be 100% sure.
Yeah, you can't, and especially in Quebec, where that is one of the most traumatic incidents of the last century.
They made a movie about
century, not the current century, but
they made a movie about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Well,
so
on the anniversary this year, I was reading moment by moment recap coverage from back in the day, and it was like, wow. You got to remember there was no internet then. There was no social media.
Right.
Almost nobody had a cell phone.
Yeah, so everybody was really waiting in the dark. Just they knew there was something and nothing else for a while.
Not like today, where something happens and the whole world knows about it in 3 seconds. Not then. Nobody knew what was going on. They do have footage from inside and what happened, but it's never been shown for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that would be different because everybody would have it on their phones and we'd be viewing it on YouTube. Well, not YouTube, but you definitely see it on Twitter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He screwed up huge. There's no two ways about it. Dude, you done messed up.
Now, he is able to realize messed up, make apologies, whatnot. That's a good sign. Did not deny it as I didn't do it and just, oh my God, I misspoke. Just went and did his stuff. So that's good. That's something we want to see. It's behavior we want to encourage. We prefer that you get it right the first time, right? But when you do mess up, this is what we do like to see. So,
yes.
and that might go. And in this one, I mean, you can't don't do like they did in the United States, where that guy from the defense secretary turned around and is still debating whether or not the stuff was real when everybody else has already certified that the documents were authentic. All right. It's like that ship has passed. So you don't do that type of stuff. So, but we're seeing a contrast, right? We got the guys, okay, yep, I did that. I'm going to make the apologies versus taking that stance. All right.
What are you talking about the signal leak?
Yeah, the signal leak. We won't go into it too much,
No.
but the only reason it is relevant is that the fact that it happened like this is what provoked what happened yesterday in Canadian politics.
Right.
All right. That's the extent of it. This IQ 47 had a little signal problem, so he had to change the channel.
Well, the interesting thing about that signal leak and signal screw up, as they say, I'm just reading here. Project 2025 calls for using public channels of communication like Signal instead of secure government channels to subvert Freedom of Information Act requests and conceal information from the public. That was not a mistake. It's the plan.
Yeah. I say, poor Elon. It's like, wait a minute. You didn't use the Twitter stuff? I mean, X stuff?
Yeah.
You used Signal? You guys had a group chat? Dude. Why wasn't it included? Oh. Oh, poor melon husk. Oh, well. Okay. Meanwhile, back in Canada. So, tariff stuff happened. We will get to that a little bit. But first off, a little touch of Danielle. Because Danielle is still protesting a little much. However, I think she maybe said this before Trump made his little announcement. And again, she might have wanted to wait a little bit.
You think?
Won an election running against Donald Trump. Another premier who's playing a role in this, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, who is vehemently defending her decision to travel to Florida this week and sit on stage with a far-right podcaster. Smith is scheduled to make an appearance at a fundraiser with Ben Shapiro. Critics are demanding she cancel the trip, but speaking earlier today in the provincial legislature, Smith said it is her duty to go and defend Alberta in the face of tariffs.
I'm fiercely criticized for going into the lion's den to change the hearts and minds of the very Americans that we need on Canada's side to avoid a trade war with the most powerful economy on earth. They want this lady and Alberta to just sit down and shut up.
Yes.
Well, here is my response to that. I will not be silent. Alberta will not be silent. We will not be pushed around and called traitors for merely having the courage to actually do something about our nation's and province's predicament other than merely indulging in self-righteous tantrums. And until this danger to Alberta and our economy is passed, they're going to have to roll me off in a stretcher before I will stop fighting for our province and our people.
Again, sounds so convincing. I needed to keep on looking down to remember what it is that she would say. And Danielle, don't give people any ideas. Just saying. Okay. That was a tantrum.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell this lady in Alberta to shut up. Okay, first of all, they're trying to tell you to shut up. Nobody's trying to tell Alberta to shut up because right now you're not speaking for Alberta. I don't know. Nobody knows who you're speaking for.
Well, you're speaking for yourself, I guess. You just trying to audition for Fox News? Is that what it is?
It has to be, right? Like, she must know that this AHS thing means that her career is over. She's just preparing the terrain.
Yeah.
She's preparing the terrain. Now, she's like really protesting too much. And see, the thing is that she probably said this before someone then announced that there were going to be some the auto tariffs. Basically, he said that he was going to announce stuff on April 2nd, but he announced it yesterday, and yesterday was March 26th. Now, why would he need to go early? Well, again, signal problem, and therefore, hey, let's break out our favorite punching bag of convenience, Canada. Boom, boom, boom. Let's change the channel. So, Danielle Smith, that word lion's den keeps on coming out. I do not know how a conference for PragerU with Ben Shapiro, who says that we should just be absorbed and not even be given a right to vote, is doing diplomatic work or going down to the lion's den to convince the people that you need to convince of the people who paid a ticket to watch the PragerU stuff are not the people who are making the decisions. Ben Shapiro certainly isn't the one who is making the decisions. And you have put yourself in a situation now because of that March 8th interview that if IQ 47 decides that he is going to only put the tariffs that he said at first with only 10% on oil and gas, that means you did all of that for nothing, and it gives the impression that he kept it at 10% while raising tariffs on all other stuff because he's in collusion with you. Because if he puts tariffs on that are higher, it makes it look, well, your charm offensive and appeasement did not work, so that's bad for you. And if there were even fewer tariffs, then it really, really looks like he was in collusion with you, so it's no good for you. Any decision he makes by you putting yourself in that position is no good for you. Then you were given an off-ramp. Many times people ask you, do not go. I am going. I am going. This lady will not shut up. Well, little missy, you committed to going, and then he slapped you with tariffs X number of days early.
Yeah.
You
She's trying to reason with a man who is not reasonable. And she doesn't even have the position to do it.
You should have taken the off-ramp. Now you just committed to really keep going because nobody's going to tell you what to do in the context of auto tariffs.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you, eh?
Mm-hmm.
What timing? She gets too hungry for dinner at 8. Goes off on her own because she can't wait. She always needles the people she hates. That's why the lady is a traitor.
Yeah. Call it what it is. Because that's what it is.
I'm not going to be called traitor because I'm doing something. People are asking you to do something else. Danielle, that's the problem. People are already doing something. Join the team. Again, as the saying goes, it's always better to play with the group than to play with yourself.
She is trying desperately to deflect from her recommendation that they pause the tariffs so that she can get Pierre Poilievre elected. She's just trying to distract from that she is a traitor to this nation. She only cares about the same thing Pierre Poilievre cares about. Money.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the opposite side of the premier mirror, it seems, Doug Ford, who had two things, gave a little press conference, but there's two things of note that he had to say. The first comes at 4:33 here.
Doug Ford is live at Queen's Park.
And it's going to drop. It's dropping today. The market's going to dive down on April the 2nd because there's no certainty. There's no certainty for the American people. And they're going to realize that. And I always say our number one ally are the American people. So it looks like we're back at it again. I just want to see exactly what he's preparing for April 2nd. As he says, he's doing the global tariffs around the world. In the same sentence, he says he's going to be very nice to his allies. Well, let's see how nice he's going to be. So we'll be prepared, and we'll convene the FMM, and I'll be speaking to the Prime Minister as we move forward over the next few days, as well as I spoke to him today.
Are you ready to do the electricity tariffs at this point?
Well, what I want to see, I want to see where he's coming from on April the 2nd. I want to take a Team Canada approach. I do not want to hurt other provinces on that, but I can assure you one thing. We're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And that's the reason we've done 2 rounds of 30 billion and 30 billion. And the last 65 billion, it will hurt. I'll be very, very frank, but I've talked to a tremendous amount of people going to events, and I'm very transparent by saying we have 2 options here. We either roll over as a country, and he runs us over 15 times and gets what he wants, or we feel a little bit of pain, and we fight like we've never fought before. I prefer the latter. I believe in fighting, and we'll have a big impact on the American people. He thinks, you know, all he's doing is hurting the American people. He thinks the cost is going to go down for automobiles in the U.S. It's the total opposite. The costs are going to go skyrocketing. It keeps calling out countries. He's really pointing us out for the most part. Ontario, 50% of the parts within the vehicles are American. And, you know, how do you dissect? They were showing me drawings today of all the different parts from all over the world, by the way, that goes in one vehicle. A lot are Canadian parts. A lot of Canadian companies they have plants down in the U.S. I understand they have approximately 127 plants employing over 50,000 people directly. So let's see how they can dissect it. I find it very, very difficult to believe that they can dissect every single part in an automobile by April the 2nd, or will be implemented on April the 3rd.
When you say dollar for dollar tariffs, does that mean Canada would implement 25% tariff on U.S. automobiles coming in?
Well, first of all, thank you, Richard. You know something, I really want to sit down with the rest of the premiers. I don't want to speak on behalf of all the premiers without sitting down with them, and without getting into it a lot deeper with the Prime Minister. That 65 billion of tariffs that we have on the table that we can launch towards the U.S., we have to run through every tariff and minimize the pain for Canadians, maximize the pain for Americans. And I feel terrible for the Americans, but it's one person, it's President Trump, that's creating this chaos, as I call it.
Or could
Have you been having any
Well,
All right. So, does this sound like a man who has had maybe more than one conversation with Mark Carney and has said, you know, yes, be that guy, but bring it in a little?
Reel it in. Yeah.
Right? The tone is
Certainly
not as
seems-
aggressive, not as dramatic. I'm going to take some time to talk to the other premiers and talk to the Prime Minister. And, right? Compare and contrast with Danielle. Nobody's going to tell me to be quiet. Nobody's going to tell Alberta to show up. I'm going to go if I want to.
And she's the prime minister of a country and not the premier of a province. Prime minister of Alberta.
I think she thinks she's the CEO of a petro state.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. She's overstepping her jurisdictional boundary by a large margin. And Albertans are pissed about this, and justifiably so. I mean, lady, there are certain folks who are saying, oh, she's really standing up for us. And I'm like, no, she isn't. She's selling you out.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe she's actually doing something good for the province, man, did she ever pull the wool over your eyes, because she's doing nothing of the sort.
See, there's 3 factions of the conservative movement, and all 3 of them are at war with each other.
Yes.
The first one is the one that Doug Ford occupies, and so is Mark Carney, in a way, by taking these steps to the center right. Fiscally conservative people like this who probably don't care if you're married to someone of the same sex, whatnot, like this. Maybe they're not too happy that there are pride parades, like this, and that it's carried on TV all the time. And then for like 1 month, they got to see rainbows everywhere, like this. But all right, we'll deal with it. Right? Then you got the sort of in the middle block, which Pierre is trying to court. He still wants the people on that side, but he still wants some of the, the PPC type in the like full Trump like this because they're the ones that are donating like crazy, right? And they want a slice of that sweet, sweet action. So he's in there and he's trying to straddle that base, trying to be all things to everyone. Yes. And then you got the whole Max Bernier, Danielle Smith wing. They're like full board.
Mm-hmm.
The other side. Each side does not like each other. Doug Ford cannot stand Pierre.
No.
Danielle is trying to lead Pierre by the nose. I mean, you've seen Danielle, right? She's out there like she's like boom, boom, boom in the legislature. I'm going. You got Doug Ford. He's standing there in his legislature and all like this, and he's delivering calm and sober sort of statesman-like thing. I'm going to be consulting with this, but this is not on, and we're done, right? We're going to have a little more of Doug Ford here, but then after that, we're going to have a little bit of PP. And then tell me of the 3 alleged leaders of the conservative movement in Canada, which one is being squeezed?
Ford is smart enough to know that Mark Carney is a much more intelligent individual and a much better negotiator. Ford will get in line. I don't like the man. That's no secret.
He has a survival instinct.
Exactly. He knows if he was doing what Danielle Smith is doing, he knows his head is on the chopping block. And he wants Pierre Poilievre's job. So he will do whatever he has to do to get it. And if he has to shut his mouth and do what he's told, he will.
And Doug Ford has done it before. He's disappeared from federal campaigns several times.
Yes. This is nothing new.
He's a good little toaster.
As much as I cannot stand the man, he does know how to play the game.
Yes, he does.
He does. And I got to give him credit for that. He knows when to shut up. He knows when to hold him, knows when to fold him, knows when to walk away, knows when to run. Thank you, Kenny Rogers.
Problem is that he's always counting his money when he's sitting at the table.
He always.
You shouldn't do that. You got to listen to the second verse, too.
Yeah. Well, and yes, underestimate Doug Ford at your own peril.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a very smart man, but he's not an idiot.
He's not book smart, but there are several forms of intelligence.
He's got street smarts.
He is freaking genius, almost.
Yeah, he's got street
smarts. One. Yeah, that was like just because somebody can't use the flowery words.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean he's stupid,
right? Or presents in a certain way. Don't underestimate the intelligence because there are like 32 different types of intelligence: the musical intelligence, financial intelligence, numerical intelligence, spatial intelligence, like this. There are plenty of people who are plenty smart, and maybe just not in the same ways you are.
Exactly. Well, it boils down to he knows what his strengths are and he knows what his weaknesses are. That is smart.
Yes.
Smart enough to know when, okay, I'm stepping away from this one. I'll let that guy handle it because he knows what he's doing better than I do.
Mm-hmm. All right. A little more Doug Ford there, Mr. Grizzly?
Yep. Just a second.
Thomas.
In your meetings with Lutnick and with the officials of the U.S. Trade Representative, was there not an agreement that there would be no surprises, there would be some sort of heads up? Did you get any indication that this was coming today, or is it impossible to get heads up when the guy is the president of the United States?
Well, you answered my question. You're bang on 100% that we thought we'd be informed. The word "no surprises" came up in the meeting, and sure enough, well, where's the surprise? I can't predict, or I honestly believe the American administration some days can't predict what President Trump's going to say. So he's come out early now and said these are going to be implemented on April the 2nd. You know, I always believe the day he calls, what day does he call that on April the 2nd? Liberation. Okay, so President Trump's calling it Liberation Day. I call it Termination Day for American workers. I know, President Trump likes telling people you're fired. I didn't think he meant auto workers in the U.S. when he said that.
What could this job?
Trump, though, on that,
Yes.
has repeatedly said that in the end, in the long term, this is going to be better for the U.S. economy. So what do you say to that?
Well, I don't know how he can think it's going to be better. He can't flick on a switch and create an auto plant overnight. We buy, over 400% more cars than Mexico. Mexico's producing probably 300 to 400% more than we're producing. It ranges from 1.3 to 1.4 million. And Mexico's well over 3.5 million, and God only knows what sort of parts are in their cars. A lot are coming over from China and
It's interesting what he has to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he has his numbers correct, but when it comes to Mexico and parts, but that's neither here nor there. He's probably pretty close to the actual numbers, I would assume.
I would say he has this down because he's really on this subject.
Yeah, and I'm not doubting what he's saying. I don't know if how accurate, but I think he's probably pretty close to the mark. And like you say, he's studied this subject because he knows he needs to know it. So, and the whole thing is like, you can't build car plants overnight. I'm like, no, you can't. You also can't build F-35 plants overnight. Jugmeat.
Yeah. Indeed.
Like,
oh, indeed. I know. Was there more to the clip, or was that it?
That was the cutoff point.
That was it. Okay.
There's more to it, but that was kind of the cutoff point.
But so here again, you notice here that the United States' word is not worth anything.
No, it's not.
Howard Lutnick said no surprises, and whoops, oh, surprise, right? Dunford said himself.
The word hasn't been worth the paper it's been written on for decades. The softwood lumber, they still owe us billions, and they're never going to pay it.
But he's still saying Fortress Amcan.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't.
Again, you gotta drop that, Doug.
Let it go, Doug. Let it go.
Again, I keep on saying, do not keep on offering to snuggle even closer into the arms of the person who wants to snap your neck.
It's not a good idea.
Drop it. There is no again, no surprises. You got a surprise. The word means nothing. Stop wanting to preach deeper integration. That is not going to happen.
It reminds me of the parable of the scorpion and the frog, right?
Right.
Scorpion, can you get me across the pond? Frog, but you'll sting me. No, I won't. I promise I won't. Halfway across the pond, the scorpion stings the frog. The frog says, that's it. I'm going to be paralyzed. I'm going to drown, and so are you. He goes, I can't help it. It's in my nature.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't it
Trump's nature to back?
Wasn't it Trump? Yeah. Wasn't it Trump that quoted that thing in his first election? You knew I was a snake when you...
Yes.
You met me or something. He made a big point about that.
The guy who for the last 8 years has been dumping on electric cars is now selling Teslas on the front lawn of the White House.
Mm-hmm.
His word is worthless. Worthless. His signature on a document guaranteeing a trade agreement is worthless, as evidenced by the fact that he said the one he signed in 2018 at the time was the greatest one ever, and now he says, who signed this? This is terrible. You did. So his word is not boy, I'm struggling this morning. His word is worthless. He has no bond. Ask any contractor that's ever worked for him.
Yep, exactly. So that's Doug Ford again. Just that for some reason, conservatives always have this little bit of message discipline that they just can't seem to drop at one point. And him, it's that AMCAN stuff. And he just the sooner he realizes that nobody wants to hear this, nobody wants deeper integration with the Americans right now. It's his only stumbling block right now. He's like running a great race, but he just keeps on tripping over that one. All right. Now we get to Peepykins. This is just a tiny little bit of his reaction. It's not the full thing, but it'll give you an idea.
We speak to the workers in the auto sector. You're afraid right now. You're anxious. You wonder how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. Canada will be there for you. We will be there for you. We will ensure that you have income replacement to put food on the table and money in your bank account.
Now, Pierre Poilievre said under a conservative government, supports for workers would be both in the form of income replacement, as he was talking about there, making...
Let's go back and look at that again.
What did he say?
I gotta listen to that again. In all honesty, I'm like, what? What did he just say?
In the auto sector. You're afraid right now. You're anxious. You wonder how you're going to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. Canada will be there for you. We will be there for you. We will ensure that you have income replacement to put food on the table and money in your bank account.
Okay. What happened to we're conservatives? We don't believe in big, costly social programs. One.
Well, it doesn't suit his narrative right now. So
Yeah. And two, with what money? Because you said that you were going to take the counter tariff stuff to fund your tax cut, which is already $6 billion per year for the first 2 years, and then $14 billion a year in the third year. Because a little thing that we learned about your tax cut is that even though you promised 2.25%, it's only going to be 1.125% for the first 2 years. The other one's backloaded. So Mark Carney's offering 1 right now, and within the next 2 years, if it's needed, we can judge then. He can offer more, but you are offering you're offering 1.125. So you're offering 0.125 more, which is very little, and pre-committing Canada to offering more 3 years from now when it might not be what the economy needs. Okay, Mark Carney offered GST cut on $1 million homes. You offered on $1.3 million homes. You offered another tax benefit to seniors, raising their personal basic income amount when seniors already have GIS and OAS, but young Canadians don't have anything. Theirs are the incomes you should be boosting, but that's another tax cut. And you can't get all of that from foreign aid because foreign aid is only $15 billion a year, and you already committed to that to build that base in Iqaluit. And you can only save $1 billion from cutting the CBC. So where's the rest of the money going to come from, especially since you're going to get us NATO compliant and balance the budget? Already his math is not mathing, and he says he's going to release a full costed platform. I'm going to believe that one when I see it, and I'm going to believe it makes sense when some economists tell me it does.
Yeah, we're not going to see that.
Yeah. Now, to underscore his seriousness about the tariffs, this is according to High Politics, Trump said this is permanent. Shares in General Motors fell roughly 3% in Wednesday's trading. Ford's stock up was slightly. Shares in Stellantis, the owner of Jeep and Chrysler, dropped nearly 3.6%. In Brussels, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen expressed regret at the U.S. decision to target auto exports from Europe and vowed that the bloc would protect consumers and businesses. Quote, tariffs are taxes, bad for business, worse for consumers, equally in the U.S. and the European Union, she said in a statement, adding that the EU's executive branch would assess the impact of the move as well as other U.S. tariffs planned for coming days. As Trump announced the new tariffs, he indicated that he would like to provide a new incentive to help car buyers by allowing them to deduct from their federal income tax the interest paid on auto loans, so long as the vehicles were made in America. That deduction would eat into some of the revenues that could be generated by the tariffs. The new tariffs would apply to both finished autos and parts used in the vehicles, according to a White House official who insisted on anonymity to discuss the taxes on a call with reporters. The tariffs would be on top of any existing taxes and were legally based on a 2019 Commerce Department investigation that occurred during Trump's first term on national security grounds. Now, here's where Trump, again, is it a tariff or is it not a tariff? For auto, because at first the news came out and then later on, during Power and Politics, Flavio Volpe had apparently was in communication, who's been a guest on the show, right? He's the guy from the Canadian Auto Parts Manufacturers Association, and also on the U.S.-Canada Advisory Panel.
Correct.
And said that, wasn't sure if it was applying to everything, all that type of stuff, and then later found out that for auto parts under the USMCA trade pact applying to the United States, Mexico, and Canada, the 25% tariffs would apply only to non-U.S. content.
Interesting.
Okay. But there was other news that was saying that maybe the parts that were USMCA compliant, regardless of where they came from, would be not tariff. So again, we don't know because everything and its opposite have been said. So we have this going on. Pierre, again, in a room, white background with 4 flags, all alone, quiet, where everybody else has all this background to make this big scene and saying, like, we will protect you. But again, he's not saying how, because the money from tariffs he's already spent on the tax cut.
Yes.
That he promised. So now he's got to find more money to take care of people, which he didn't say he was going to do at first, right? Mark Carney pointed that out the other day. We showed it on the show, where he said from the get-go, any money we raise from tariffs goes into a pool. It's going to help the workers and the industries most affected by the tariffs. And Pierre was saying, I'm going to take that money and make it a big, because all of you are going to be affected by tariffs because you're all going to be paying more. So I'm going to give a tax cut to all of you. But said nothing about shoring up the industries or the workers that would be affected. So now all of a sudden, the guy that keeps on saying that Mark Carney is adopting all his policies is adopting Mark Carney's policies. Huh. Funny that. All right. Then we got the reaction from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, which is what one would expect, and this is good territory for him.
This is a direct attack on so many workers. We know that Trump is an arsonist. He's literally burning down his own country's jobs and economy and ours as well. And we got to stand up and fight back. Well, what's happened right now is heartbreaking. Like the idea that hundreds of thousands of workers right now are looking at what's just been announced and are wondering, will I lose my job? The prediction is, and some of the estimates are, these are literally hundreds of thousands of jobs that could be impacted in the automotive sector and the supporting sectors around it. There's a lot of jobs at stake right now. So first and foremost, we got to protect these workers, and we've got to fight back like hell to protect these jobs.
All right. That's what you would expect.
Yeah, no, that was a reasonable response.
Yep, absolutely good. Like this, and it's credible from him, right?
Yes, yeah.
And again, that passion that you hear was nowhere in Pierre's voice, right? But Pierre was trying to do statesman voice.
Mm-hmm. He's trying desperately.
Yes, trying to do statesman voice. Okay, so then
it's hard when you're so robotic and stiff to actually act like you have a personality and maybe some charisma, skill sets that he clearly doesn't have.
Empathy, relatability. Right. I mean, I saw this quote the other day saying, like, Pierre Poilievre was the guy who was walking around in a 3-piece suit and had a briefcase when he was 4.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Pierre Poilievre. I've known people who've gone to see his rallies and they said, oh, yeah, they're pretty stirring. I go, yeah, because he's completely on message. He's rehearsed what he's going to say. He doesn't go off script, and nobody's allowed to ask him a single question.
And nobody's predisposed to challenging him there as well, because everybody's vetted, right?
You watch what happens when he gets asked a question. He gets flustered. He gets defensive. He behaves like the a-hole that he is, the smarmy, smug teenage boy in a man's body. Thank you, Mark Borey, for that line. But that's who he is. That's who he's always been. He hasn't changed at all since high school. At all. Again, friends of mine who went to high school with him said he's the exact same guy. The guy you see every day, that's who he was when he was 14, 15, 16 years old in high school. The same guy.
Yeah.
No growth, no advancement. He knows better than you do about anything. He's a know-it-all. He's a narcissist. If anti-charisma was a product, he would be the top salesman.
Yep, indeed. Now, for Mark Carney, he had his response, and it is probably, again, as you would expect it would be. And Mr. Grizzly, if you would.
Lana Payne, president of Unifor, who will speak to you in a moment. Lana and I were just having a meeting, a pre-scheduled meeting, to discuss the situation in our economy, how we can work together across a range of industries, forestry, aerospace, automobiles, and beyond. During the course of that meeting, President Trump announced 25% tariffs against our auto industry. And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of, Unifor workers I stood in front of this morning at the Ambassador Bridge, a bridge that is a symbol and a reality up until now of the tight ties between our two countries, ties of kinship, ties of commerce, ties that are in the process of being broken. We will defend our workers. We will defend our companies. We will defend our country, and we will defend it together. Les États-Unis sont divisés.
The United States is divided, and that is weakening it. But we are stronger. We are stronger when we're united, and we are united here in Canada. The unions, the government, the society, and workers.
You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger. I think what's happened, and this was part of our discussion, over the course of the last several months, Canadian workers, Canadians as a whole across this country, have gotten over the shock of the betrayal and are learning lessons. We have to look out for ourselves, and we have to look out for each other and work together for each other. And I just want to say a few words before taking some questions about what my government has done to turn that sentiment into reality. We made a commitment a few weeks ago to use every dollar that we collect from retaliatory tariffs to support workers, to directly go to support workers. And last week, we made a series of changes to the EI system in order to take the first big step to make good on that promise. There'll be more. We've announced, of course, retaliatory tariffs. We have other options for those retaliatory tariffs. I have asked for a meeting, I will convene, rather, a meeting of the Canada-U.S. Cabinet tomorrow to discuss our trade options. But we're also providing the option of major liquidity for our companies. We put in place an ability for companies to delay tax payments. We've put in place a large facility for our largest companies, some of them which may be affected by this, would be affected by this, to draw on liquidity in various forms so that they can take longer-term decisions without undue pressure from short-term, unjustified actions. It's also why we focused, in part in anticipation of what might happen, on today's announcement that I made in front of that Ambassador Bridge for the $2 billion Strategic Response Fund. And the point of that fund, the point of government procurement, the point of linking up through supply chains, the point of working with labor led by Unifor, is to build a made-in-Canada supply chain, a made-in-Canada option, so that we are less affected by these. Now, that will take time, but we are already putting in place the building blocks for that. To be clear, we are standing together, standing for Canadian workers across levels of government, and I would add that Premier Ford and I have discussed this already at length, and we will have more discussions in terms of our overall approach. But together, we are stronger. Nous sommes unis, et nous sommes
we are united,
Canada fort.
And we are
and with
Canada
that,
strong.
I think we have time for 2 questions before I go to my next event. This evening, I will, je vais observer, je reviens à Ottawa ce soir.
Tonight, I will be returning to Ottawa for other meetings.
D'accord. Première question.
Do you have any clarity on how Canada will be impacted and how Thurs will be treated? And how will you respond? Will you retaliate?
Yeah, this is a crucial question. I'll give a short answer. We do not yet have the executive order. And so there are different variants of the 25% announcement that was made today. One would be that it is only on the, this is still significant to be absolutely clear, but on the part component of a car. Another would be that it's on the entire vehicle. We await the executive order for that clarity. But to be absolutely clear, even in the more, quote, restricted version of this, it is a significant action. It's entirely unjustified. It's entirely inconsistent with CUSMA and indeed the long history of relations in the auto sector right back through the Auto Pact.
Dernière question,
Oui.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir la traduction avant d'avoir la question?
La dernière question?
Non, non, oui, en fait, sur votre réponse.
OK.
Oui, juste traduire.
OK. En ce qui concerne
So
les
we're going to
détails,
just the translation here.
In terms of the details, the big question is whether the new U.S. tariffs of 25% will apply to the entire vehicle or whether they will apply only to the parts component. And even in the second situation, it's very serious for us. So at this point, we are waiting to see the executive order of President Trump, but it's clear that this is a violation and he has betrayed our trade agreement. In other words, President Trump.
Okay.
Was he not just repeating what he said in English?
Yes, but now the journalist is asking a different follow-up.
Pour le deuxième part.
In other words, President Trump.
Okay.
Will there be an immediate response?
Oui. Pour le deuxième partie, oui.
Vous allez l'appeler?
Oui. On verra. Tôt.
Demain?
Okay.
It will happen soon. It will happen soon. I won't say more. But when it comes to our options, we do have options. Even in an election period, we have options. We can introduce retaliatory tariffs, for example, and we will make our decisions once we have met as a Canada-U.S. Relations Cabinet Committee.
I think it would be appropriate that the President and I speak, given the action that he's taken. I'm sure that will happen soon. I'm not going to give you a precise timing on that. In terms of options, which was the second part of Ms. Martin's question, even during a caretaker period of government, we have anticipated this possibility. We have put in place the mechanisms so that if it is appropriate for retaliatory tariffs, and there's many considerations to be taken in those regards, and I want to have the meeting of our cabinet, Canada-U.S. cabinet, other considerations. We need to see the details of the executive order, but we will take the steps that are in the interests of Canadian workers of Canada. We are going to stand up for Canada. We're going to be united, and we will fight in a unified way. And I would say, if I may, and I will, Lana and Ms. Payne can speak for herself, obviously, the discussions that we've had, the discussions I've had with Premier Ford, we're entirely aligned in terms of the seriousness with which we're taking this and the seriousness of our response. Thank you very much.
Okay, that.
All right, impressions, Mr. Grizzly.
Well, once again, he gets a home run, and that's not because I happen to like the man. I think he's saying and doing the right things, and I got a vibe from him, and you tell me if you feel the same way about this, but I think he's pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
He's mad, and I understand why. And I would love to hear the conversation he has with Trump, whenever that may be.
Indeed.
Whenever that may be. Because
So,
he will be measured,
yes,
diplomatic,
yes,
but there will be aggression and tones of aggression in his voice because they were just there.
yeah,
He's pissed, and I'm here for it. I want him to be pissed.
yep,
Because I know he's going to fight for Canada.
yep. I got the same impression there. You'll notice that in his comment, well, I'm not sure if there was too much. Yes, in his comments, Doug Ford did mention Mark Carney, but Mark Carney mentioned Doug Ford in his comments, right? So clearly they have decided to get on the same page here, which is very interesting, which also makes again, for an interesting dynamic with Danielle. They're going to have to try to find a way to contain, or at least maybe not, hopefully not get as many questions about her as there should be, so that they don't have to say anything, because clearly she's going off on her own road.
Well,
Because then
Danielle
she's not coming back.
She seems to think the oil in Alberta is hers.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
She also seems to forget that it's all on treaty land.
Yeah.
All of it. The entire freaking province, every drill, every pump jack, every oil well, they're all on treaty land.
Yep.
You're allowed to have them because you've been you've been given permission to have them. But the oil isn't yours, Danny.
Yeah.
Stop acting like it is. And it also isn't the company that is pumping it out of the ground. They don't own it either.
Yep. And you'll also note that he and Jagmeet Singh had a similar language, as in this being a direct attack on Canada and on its workers. So again, you see everybody participating with the Team Canada approach. You'll also notice, he was mentioned there, but he was already having a meeting with Unifor. The president of Unifor, Lana Payne, was there. So again, the person that was the former director of the Canadian Labour Congress on the US-Canada panel, and he is sitting right there with the president of Unifor. So if anybody's wondering if he's okay with labor, all that kind of stuff, again, he seems to be with the right people. Again, it was a pre-scheduled meeting. So he didn't meet with the people from Unifor just because he got the word up that tariffs were coming today. Right? Everybody was surprised. That Ford was surprised. Then he was told there would be no surprises. So this was just a regular scheduled meeting with people from Unifor. So people are wondering if he's good with labor. It seems so. Right? So we have that, and that's about where things stand for the moment with tariffs. We're waiting to see between what IQ 47 said and what it actually will be when it's down on paper and how it will be executed, what it will exactly look like. So we're waiting for that. His no talkie until the 51st state stops. Of course, exception to that type of thing would be is if there's tariffs and there needs to be a thing, but that's probably just going to be a phone call. It's probably going to be terse and very efficient.
I would think so, yes.
Right. It's not the face-to-face meeting before cameras and all that kind of stuff. But yes, when somebody does something, you have to. So what does this mean? And establish something. So we'll see where that goes. But you see where the players are like this, and how this move is really terrible for Danielle, because whatever comes after makes her look bad, makes her look like she was in coots. Whatever happens.
It does.
Doug Ford playing a bit more of the long game, knowing on which side his bread is buttered.
Like I said again, Doug he's a survivalist.
Yeah. You got Pierre Poilievre getting squeezed and suddenly needing to find new money to take care of people that he never pledged before now he was going to take care of.
Yes. But he said he won't cut the dental program or pharmacare. I'm like, okay, you won't cut it, but that means on May 1st, when I qualified for it, I ain't getting it. He won't extend it.
And of course, Jagmeet Singh seeing an opportunity for him to speak about workers, take a step up. So, right, all the players doing that kind of thing. We need to stay tuned to see what happens. Moving on, because we promised this to you. we're going to take a little bit of a look at the launch from the Bloc Québécois and the Greens today. Now, the Bloc Québécois, this is really interesting because technically this was not their launch, according to Monsieur Blanchet. This was just him responding to the announcement that the election is going to be had and that his official launch was going to be the next day in Quebec City, of course. All right. But it's still the first time we hear from him. So we're going to go to it. Now, of course, all of his address is in French. Whoops. There goes the evil layer again. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't get the signal this time that we were going. So all of it is in French. So the first segment I'm going to show you is in French. The other two I have is for the journalists in English. The way that a Bloc Québécois press conference goes is that he makes his whole announcement in French. He does not translate it into English. He answers the Francophone reporters first, and then the Anglophone reporters at the end. But there is something that he said in French that I want you to hear him say, even if you don't understand French at all, because you get tone, you get inflection. Mm-hmm. And the reason I am not showing it to you with simultaneous interpretation is that the Bloc, Yves-François Blanchet's mastery and command of French is so good that he often uses turns of phrase and expressions, lots of poetic language, flowery language, talking and then mid-sentence putting in something in the middle and an aside and then coming back, that he is a nightmare for simultaneous interpreters.
Right.
And to listen to it is painful. So I literally translated his entire press conference myself, word for word. It took me 2.5 days to be able to have the snippets that I wanted to get to you. I'm not going to show it all to you because I'd be him saying it and then me repeating it. It would just take twice as long. But I will show you a segment and I will give you the gist of some of the things that he said before bringing you to the segments in English. But this one in particular is very, very, very important.
Évidemment au centre de la campagne électorale. J'ai envie de vous dire tout de suite, là, la question de l'urne n'est pas sur le qui, elle est sur le quoi. De quoi va-t-on parler? Déjà, c'est correct, on n'est pas contre ça, mais ça ne suffit pas. On parle d'acier ontarien, d'automobile ontarien, de banque ontarienne, de pétrole de l'Ouest. Et à un moment donné, dans cette campagne, je ne suis pas sûr que ça a été le cas jusqu'à maintenant aujourd'hui, il faudra parler des entreprises du Québec, des travailleurs du Québec, des aînés du Québec. Il faudra que ces gens-là sentent que dans le contexte de négociation, on leur offre un sentiment de sécurité bien documenté, bien construit. Dans ce contexte-là, j'ai envie de disposer tout de suite de cet enjeu qui a moins pris d'espace, j'en suis heureux, de la souveraineté canadienne. Vous savez, la liberté et l'économie du Canada sont précieuses pour les Canadiens. Tout comme la liberté et l'économie du Québec sont précieuses pour les Québécois. Et on ne fera pas l'économie de rappeler que ce sont deux nations différentes, auxquelles je veux proposer qu'on se comporte en alliés. Vous comprendrez que le Québec, le Canada, peuvent être des alliés du Mexique qui en a bien besoin. Et il y a un courant qui s'installe en Europe de façon soutenue pour se comporter comme des alliés avec les pays nord-américains qui doivent composer avec Donald Trump.
Sure.
All right. So, I'll give you a little bit of the lead-in and then tell you what he said in this clip here. So, first of all, he comes in and says that he's very, very happy to be there and says that there's a serious context to this election campaign, and that is that of the President of the United States adopting policies and multiplying threats which literally distill fear. And he seems to delight in it. He seems to delight in the fear of others. That's how he starts. Bam. Okay. Beyond the commercial implications, we cannot forget the license they seem to be giving the current government of Israel to once again pillory Gaza, where people are dying, or the license it appears to be giving to the Russian dictator who's doing a number on Ukraine. Bam. Those are like the first two paragraphs of the meat.
Mm-hmm.
He's not playing around.
No.
Therefore, There are veritable dramas here in Quebec, and people are afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of losing their businesses. If you operate a dairy farm in Quebec today, you are wondering what happens after the signing of a new trade agreement that I dare not call a trade agreement at the current moment. Bam!
Yes,
the climate of tariff threats and commercial negotiations will obviously be the heart of the electoral campaign, and this is the segment here that I wanted to show to you. The ballot question will not be about who, but rather what. Of what we will speak. Already, and we are not against this, we are talking about Ontario Steel, Ontario Automobiles, and Western Oil. But at some moment during this campaign, we are going, and I'm not sure that it has happened yet, we are going to have to speak about businesses in Quebec, workers in Quebec, and seniors in Quebec. These people will have to feel that in the context of these negotiations, they are being offered a sense of security that is well documented and well conceived. Given the context, I wish to immediately dispose of the following issue, for which there is little place, I am happy to say, that of Canadian sovereignty.
Interesting that he said that, eh?
Yes. You know that the freedom and economy of Canada are precious to Canadians, just as the freedom and economy of Quebec are precious to the Québécois. And we will not shy away from reminding ourselves that we are speaking of two different nations that I propose should behave as allies.
Interesting take from him. He's on Team Canada.
You will understand that Quebec and Canada can be allies of Mexico, who clearly needs some, and there is a current that is establishing itself in Europe in a sustained fashion to behave as if our lives as two North American countries must deal with Donald Trump, to whom I will keep referring by his name or as Mr. President, because despite everything, I do not think we can call the President of the United States by his last name as one would a very close neighbor. Boom. Allies treat each other as equals. Allies ensure that all members of the alliance are heard and listened to. All right. So that's a little bit of the context there. So, and again, this is something that I keep on telling you about the Bloc Québécois, right? You have to understand that the Bloc Québécois' attitude is if it's good for Quebec, we will vote for it. If it's good for Canada, sorry, if it's not good for Quebec, we won't vote for it. And most of what's good for Canada happens to also be good for Quebec. So that's okay. But there is a specificity to Quebec that he wants to be present. And François Blanchet is one of the most clever politicians out there.
Oh, yes.
Right. So we can be allies here. Right. Because we both have to fight. He continues on, and this is not in the clip, says, but beyond this, right, there are issues that have not been raised, and they've been dismissed with a, hey, don't worry about that. That will just not do. I want to remind us of the importance of the economic prosperity and identity, as well as the jobs of Quebec, the importance of softwood lumber, the importance of dairy, poultry, and eggs under supply management, the importance of, need I even say it, arts and culture, which in Quebec are defined and experienced and which have a singular economic weight much more significant than any other sector I have named. Aluminium, which is practically exclusively in Quebec with the exception of Kitimat in British Columbia, and of which the Americans produce very little. The coastal fisheries, which is very much a Quebec model on the coast of the Gaspésie and Île de la Madeleine, but also in New Brunswick and around Prince Edward Island. Strategic minerals, the principal reserves of phosphate, are found in Quebec. We are speaking of electrification of transportation and lithium as well. The necessity to unlock oil from the West that we are assured is going to be good for Quebec. There has been no demonstration of that. I have not seen a dime of advantage at all for Quebec to get into this extremely costly mess. I visited disaster-stricken people in Drummondville yesterday. We are going to have to admit that climate change is very, very costly. Clean energy, the alternative to this terrible pipeline to cross Quebec territory, and aerospace, which is emblematic because aerospace is an integrated supply chain with the United States, as is the automobile industry. Aerospace is as integrated as automobile. I guess you'll notice that Mark Carney mentioned aerospace in his notes. We should always be speaking of one in theory when we are speaking of the other, although I'm not sure that's Mr. Ford's thing, but to me, it seems important all the same. Therefore, making the case, it's like, yes, Mr. Ford is doing a good job, stuff like this, but I haven't heard a word out of his mouth about aerospace, and maybe that's why we need to be at the table as Quebec. We wish to engage in this campaign with a positive and collaborative attitude, an attitude that I hope the Québécois will appreciate, perhaps a bit nourished by the fact that given this is the third election this iteration of the Bloc Québécois competes in, the party may be a bit more serene than the public has come to know. Perhaps it's because those who speak on behalf of the Bloc now have such a delightful disposition. I promise nothing. The Québécois have thick skin and the fear argument will not be particularly effective with the people because they are in a position where fear no longer scares them. It has been so frequently used against them. Boom. Quebec will shine thanks to its innovation. It will remain a nation with a strong identity with regards to the French language, with regards to its values on secularism, which are essential to the values of equality, with regards to its generous welcome, but immigration must be done successfully. To see reappear the specter of the Centre Initiative will not be a pretext for celebration. A Quebec that is more ecological than that which we observed elsewhere on the continent, with the possible exception of our carbon market partners in California. A Quebec that is very different, but with the same rights to be, to live, to express ourselves, to be prosperous, and that offers itself as a partner so long as we maintain our own voice in Canada, Mexico, and once we have a new treaty with the United States, as we do with the European Union. So we welcome with great enthusiasm the beginning of this election campaign that offers us the grace of being held in the spring, and I desire that all of us would want to tell each other at the end of the campaign and at every point during it, with all of this, for all of this, or despite all of this, that I have chosen Quebec. So that was his pitch.
Seems to be reasonable.
If you're into what he's selling,
yeah,
you'd be buying.
Oh yes.
If I was an autonomous Québécois, that's what I like to hear. Now, I would also be realistic and notice that the Bloc Québécois does not have federal power.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I still might want to say, you know what, Bloc Québécois, I love you, but still right now, I'm going Carney because this is Trump.
Yes.
This is a special circumstance. So that's what Yves-François Blanchet is fighting most of all. It's like, yes, good pitch, good guy, you've delivered. Absolutely, we can count on you. We know that you will have our backs. But
you don't have the power that the liberal leader or possibly the conservative leader has or could have, because
so that's
can't form government.
Right. So that's the big current he's fighting. That's his biggest obstacle to overcome in the province. So he's hoping for some type of slip up from Carney, showing that French is not important, or he doesn't really understand the culture or whatnot. To try and say, listen, again, he says the right words because he saw them on a briefing note, whatnot like this, but he doesn't feel them.
Do we know
he's
that?
Not living them.
That's kind of a really. Do you know that for a fact?
Listen,
it's a reach. It's a stretch.
Again, you use what you got.
No, yeah, I'm not.
And often in the campaign, you use what people give you. That day on the campaign, handed him that. The TVA debate decision not to participate handed him that. Right? It's like I said, everything's a trade-off. When you make a decision to do one thing, somebody can spin it in another way, right? That's the game. So we get to the question and answer period here. And he's asked a certain number of questions. He's been asked if he's more afraid of the Liberals than he is of Trump. Right? And he says, well, you'll understand because one of his candidates said that, he says, I'm more afraid of, he says, you have to understand that BQ is not a very authoritarian party. We have a great diversity of opinion. In his writing, surely he has reason to fear Liberals more, and he will do his own analysis. Other people will come to different conclusions, and yes, they find the need to fear Conservatives more. I will not engage in the we fear nobody nonsense. There will be strategic considerations and calculations, but each of us has our own opinion, and that's what's going to make it such that at the end of the exercise, we emerge from it stronger and more intelligent. And then he's asked, are you afraid that Liberals are going to steal votes from the Bloc? right? This thing that I mentioned. He says, well, liberals can't steal votes from the Bloc because the votes do not belong to any party. They belong to the electors up until the moment they mark their X on the ballot. As long as the X is not on the ballot, I consider the vote is up for grabs, and I've got a butterfly net, and we are going to catch votes, no matter where they are, because people will hear us and see us, and we hope to earn your confidence as we do in every election campaign, and we will see at the end who has the power or the balance of power. Again, it's the right answer. Right? I'm running. It's the same thing. I'm running for prime minister. No, you're not like this. Oh, these are our votes. No, the votes do not belong to you. They belong to the people. And so like that, I'm sure that made you very happy in your heart, Mr. Grizzly, when he was saying that, because he gets it. Like, so the votes are up for grab, and reminding like this, hey, this could still end in a minority situation for the Liberals. And if that's the case, then hello, here we are. Right? Asked about the Americans, because in general, we have seen from the American side that which is frankly intimidation and the silliness of all this 51st state rhetoric. At the beginning, Trudeau said they wanted to absorb Canada, and I found that far-fetched. And we sensed a desire to instrumentalize the insecurity of people in order to tell them, get in line behind our guy. You don't know him, but it'll go well. Now we're not so much in that dynamic. But you know that Quebec has often dealt with fear, and we are still standing upright. So I'm not very leery of the fear argument. To fear, to oppose it, we use confidence and reason. Again, love what he's saying on this. An election campaign is for ideas. Everyone has their ideas, their liberties, their daily lives, their preferences. The campaign is going to deal with very concrete things. It's not pieces of a conservative program that Mr. Carney is going to pick up because the conservatives don't have one. It's pieces of slogans. We need things that are concrete. You will see that every day on the campaign, the BQ is going to come to the table with documented and precise proposals that will, I hope, obligate our colleagues from other political parties to expand on that which they have proposed. Because I'm very, very leery, and I invite the Québécois to also be leery of the blank check. Elect me, though I have committed to absolutely nothing, after which I will do whatever I want because I will be able to say that I've never said the opposite. That's the campaign that Doug Ford just ran in Ontario, by the way. I've committed to nothing, so I can do what I want. With two adversaries, Mr. Poliev, we know his program, we know the character he plays. It's been a while that we've been skating on the same ice. And Mr. Carney, about whom we know too little to say, hey, that's all right. They told me he was good, so I'll vote for him. Again, this is intelligent framing. You may not like it, but it's infinitely reasonable.
Indeed.
Right? The Québécois will have that right, but my duty and the duty of my candidates is to assuredly obligate Carney as well as Poliev to reveal a platform on which we will be able to make choices. I remember at my beginnings in politics in 1987, Jacques Parizeau returned to politics, and rather than trying to obtain a free mandate but not saying what he would do, instead stated he was about to do an intellectual striptease. He laid out a political program and did so over a couple of years, and it brought us to power and put us in the waiting room for independence. He's telling you what he's going to do. A journalist asked him if he did not fear that the file, that the file would not give more opportunity, more reason for Canadians to vote for a national party. Like I said again, right before, and then he goes, "What says? But what party is more national than the Bloc?" He goes, well, I mean, national as in like running from coast to coast to coast. Says, yeah, but that's never been a Bloc thing, so that doesn't make us any less of a national party. If that which is proposed for Quebec is good for Quebec, we could become collaborators, possibly even collaborators without whom they can achieve nothing. It is possible there are people more intelligent than I that say we could end up with a balance of power. If Quebecers grant themselves that, the certitude that the economic interests of the Quebec, which are just as different from Canada as Quebec culture is different from the Canadian identity. Québécois will say we have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose in having our own voice, which will guarantee that our interests will be protected. But we can, and do we wish But can we and do we wish to take the risk of not inoculating ourselves from the fact that Mr. Carney, like Mr. Poilievre to date, including today, have said nothing about the economic issues specific to Quebec? Me, when I'm talking wood, I know that I'm talking to tens of thousands of Québécois. When I say supply management, I know I'm talking to tens of thousands of people in Quebec. When I say coastal fisheries, I know I'm talking to thousands of coastal fishers in the east of the province. And when I talk of aerospace, I know I'm talking to thousands of workers in the industry. Something very concrete, very real people who are fearing they might lose their jobs, and of whom nobody comes and says, we are going to take care of that specifically for you, with one exception, the Bloc Québécois. Therefore, very, very national.
Interesting.
He's good. He's good. Then we get to a couple of questions in English. And these, Monsieur Blanchet's ease in English is also notable as well, because a lot of people do that comment, right? You know, it's like, well, how are they in French? Mr. Blanchet's English is better than some of the candidates, Anglophone candidates' French. So if we can go to 2011.
Already there.
Offrir la confiance et un environnement économique favorable.
Prochaine question.
Merci.
Bonjour, Monsieur Blanchet, Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC. Your party was leading or dominant in polls in Quebec right up to the resignation of Justin Trudeau, and you seem to have sort of slumped behind the Liberals since then. What will you do to reinsert yourself into this conversation about who is best to tackle Donald Trump's economic threats?
I read Newton. What goes up goes down. If that's good for me, that's good for Mr. Carney. Let's see.
Okay. And you've been talking about pipelines a lot and how they have no place in Quebec. This is not new for you. You've talked about this a lot. Recently, Quebec Premier François Legault started saying that maybe public opinion in Quebec is shifting on this issue, and he would be ready to start talking about pipelines if there is a broader social acceptability on this. Why do you think he started saying this? And I guess, why don't you agree with him? Because it's clear you don't.
There are so many reasons why I do not agree. I can repeat them easily because this is such a bad idea. It came very fast and under the pretext of trade between provinces in Canada. This has nothing to do with trade between provinces in Canada because there was no debate about trade between provinces in Canada when we refused that in 2015. And it's exactly the same project with the same goals. The idea for Western Canada is to unlock Canadian oil and gas in order to have the price of Canadian oil and gas go higher and reach the same level of price as oil and gas from anywhere else in the world. One of the first things that this would do, by the way, is make the gas at the pump more expensive in Quebec because the drum, the barrel will be more expensive here also because they don't give us oil and gas. We pay for it the same price as anybody else does. And we just had a study released showing the enormous price. We're speaking thousands of dollars a year for each family, each household to pay for the damages of climate change, which some people, both other leaders, seem to believe that do not exist, cost nothing. So the idea is, please, help us exploit oil and gas from Western Canada that will give you nothing. And then when the bill comes about the cost of climate change, you will also pay the bill of climate change. There's nothing for Quebec in that. And when you speak about energy, selling energy, for Quebec, it's not from west to east, it's from north to south. And what we sell to our American friends in New England is clean energy, is green energy. And this is much more the future of Quebec than any other form of energy. In 2023, about $30 billion were generously given to the oil and gas industry, which does not need it. 7 of those billions of dollars came from the pockets of families in Quebec. And this money was not spent in our economy, in clean energy, in agriculture or aluminum or lumberwood or innovation, research, high technology. Why would we spend that much money for Western Canada in order to pay twice for the same thing, if not 3 times?
Bonjour, Mike Armstrong, The Global.
Can't argue with them.
The other party leaders seem to be asking for, saying they need a strong mandate to do battle with Donald Trump. How do you push back on that argument?
You know, I do not have the feeling that Quebecers trust so much Mr. Poilievre. And I do not have the feeling that Quebecers know so much about Mr. Carney. So if what they propose is good, they have nothing to fear, because as we did in the last 6 years, we will support what is good for Quebec. And if something is not good for Quebec, what would be the point for Quebecers to support somebody that will do something bad for Quebec? So I believe that I might not want to become Prime Minister of Canada, believe me, but I will be as strong a leader as I can.
You've said in the last couple of months that you understand how fear of Donald Trump has sort of shifted the polls in Quebec. How important is it for you to try and make sure that Quebecers don't vote with fear in their minds as they cast their ballot?
I believe that in any instance, under any circumstance, one should never vote because of fear. One should try to find reason in what he or she hears or reads. So fear is not a reason to vote, and we will try to force logic and rationality and information with you all in that campaign in order for democracy to work its way out. And in our case, I'm glad to say that it's the first time since 2015 that we can afford all bus only for reporters and journalists, which I don't fear.
Merci. C'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.
Mais ce fut bien agréable. On se reparle sûrement très bientôt. Merci.
I can't argue with anything he just said. I mean, he's right.
Right? But we don't hear that side of the argument often, eh? It's like, you keep on saying, we're sending all this money to Quebec in equalization, which you don't, but Quebec is sending $6 billion to you every year in subsidies, however.
To subsidize for-profit wealthy oil companies.
And then they buy the oil.
Yes.
And there's no discount.
So, I mean, I have to admire him. He knows what he's doing.
Yep.
He's not an idiot.
Nope.
He's well-spoken in both languages. And he's right on the money. He says, if it's good for Quebec. It's usually good for Canada if it's good for Quebec, to be honest with you. I mean, it's neither here nor there.
Ahead of us on a lot of things.
Well, it's so many things, childcare. It's like, come on.
They were 20 years ahead of us on childcare. What probably did 20 years ahead of us on anything environmental.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, and well,
they really support the arts.
You go down. I try and visit Montreal several times a year because I love it. It's right next door. It's a 90-minute drive from here, or a short train ride, whichever you choose. And you can walk around downtown Montreal, and there are electric car charging stations everywhere. Everywhere. And the whole province is on board with this because there's more on the Gatineau side than there is in Ottawa. And Ottawa is 1.1 million, and Gatineau is just hovering around 600,000. Yet, there is exponentially more charging stations in Gatineau and Hull. And they are provincially installed charging stations. There's Tesla stations too, but there's tons of provincially installed ones. they're full in on green energy, and they know it's the future. And like he said, the electricity, the energy we send to New England is clean energy, and he's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's hydroelectric. It's clean and renewable.
Yep. Now, there's one more clip from it. I skipped over it, but it's an important one. It's at 1801, because the issue of sovereignty, but not of Canadian sovereignty, but the sovereignty of Quebec, or independence of Quebec, comes up.
Just a second here. I got to cue it up.
Okay. That's 1801 to 2011. So again, I'll play it in French so that you can, again, get the tone of voice and the expression, because this one clearly is asked in French and answered in French. So.
Parler de souveraineté, je n'ai entendu le mot qu'être prononcé une seule fois dans vos propos plus tôt, et c'était accolé de canadienne, pour souveraineté canadienne.
Oui, mais j'ai dit le mot indépendance aussi. Une fois aussi.
Qu'en sera-t-il des désirs d'indépendance et de souveraineté du Québec pendant cette campagne?
J'ai vu récemment, ça a été distrayant. Ça n'a pas duré très longtemps, j'ai eu une chance, parce que ça aurait été un test de tempérament, mais vous savez, il n'y a pas personne qui a fini sa 3e année B qui doute que je suis indépendantiste ou qui que ce soit ici est indépendantiste. Mais il n'y a pas non plus personne qui pense que le Bloc québécois va organiser un référendum sur l'indépendance du Québec au Parlement fédéral en 2026. C'est peu probable. Or, on a quoi? On a une opportunité extraordinaire comme indépendantiste de contribuer à ce que la mise en place économique qui va forcément se finir vers le milieu de 2026. Parce que Donald Trump veut avoir quelque chose à montrer à ses gens, à ses électeurs, à qui il a fait des promesses avant les élections de mi-mandat, parce qu'il ne veut pas perdre le contrôle des chambres au Congrès américain. Et nous aussi, on veut que ce soit fini au milieu de 2026 pour que ce soit en arrière de nous, lors de l'élection québécoise, où les militants du Bloc québécois, où les gens du Bloc québécois vont aller aider le Parti québécois dans une perspective de gouvernement souverainiste à Québec. Et là, une fois qu'il y a un gouvernement souverainiste à Québec, c'est présumément Paul qui va bien établir sa stratégie et on sera en soutien de ça. Donc, on est les mieux placés pour mettre la table. Ceux qui disaient, je l'ai entendu, il faudrait que les Québécois perdent leur job dans la vie pour être fâchés contre le Canada. Je n'ai jamais été de ceux qui pensent que les gens doivent souffrir pour choisir la souveraineté. Je suis de ceux qui pensent que les gens doivent avoir confiance en eux-mêmes, doivent avoir confiance dans les porte-paroles de l'idée de souveraineté, parce qu'ils se seront comportés de façon responsable pour dire, hey, quand la grande question va venir, on fait confiance à ces gens-là. Et notre travail, là, ça va être de construire la confiance et un environnement économique favorable. Prochain.
Okay. Now, in this answer, again, he confirms a lot of things that I keep on telling you about the Bloc Québécois that are true about their identity. So the question was first from the journalist saying, I want to talk about Quebec independence, they say souveraineté, because I've only heard you mention it once in your earlier discourse, and it was, in the context of Canadian sovereignty. He goes, yes, but I also mentioned independence once in the context. So they're laughing a little bit about that. So then she asks, what will become of the desires of independence and of sovereignty of Quebec? So he basically says that, there's a time and place for stuff in a way. Says everybody knows that I'm very much an independentist, but there's also nobody that believes that the Bloc Québécois is going to be organizing a referendum on the independence of Quebec in the federal parliament in 2026. And it's even less probable because right now we have an extraordinary opportunity to contribute to the economic place that Quebec is going to be in by the middle of 2026, because Donald Trump wants to have something to show to his electors by the midterms that he's accomplished something. So he doesn't want to lose control of the chambers of Congress and the Senate. So for him, it's in his interest for this to be finished by the middle of 2026. So Quebec militants and the militants from the Bloc Québécois are going to help the Parti Québécois in a perspective of bringing about sovereignty in Quebec. And that's what's going to be their job. And I suppose that Paul, and when he says Paul, he's talking about Paul-Pierre Plamondon. Pierre Paul, he's got a very long name. I can't remember all of it. Who's the leader of the PQ, and we've shown you a couple of times on the show. But he says that's going to be for him to decide as a strategy, and we will support that because they are better placed to put things on the table than we are. But there's a lot of people that are saying that, the Québécois should have to lose their jobs in order to feel it, to get mad against Canada. And I've never been of those who believe that people need to suffer in order to choose sovereignty. I am those who believe that people should have confidence in themselves and should have confidence in the spokespeople for the idea of sovereignty, and that these people will have behaved in a manner that is responsible, so that when the big question does come along, people have confidence in our work and have confidence in the economic environment and say, you know what? Yeah, maybe we're ready to go with it with these guys. So again, as I keep on saying, the Bloc Québécois very rarely takes the easy, cheap shot, because they are always trying to show how they would behave if they were leading Quebec as a country.
Well,
and that's one of the reasons they formed the best the best official opposition in my lifetime. The one time they were in the opposition.
Yeah, which was like everybody kind of went, what?
That was 93, I think.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry.
What do we do now?
Well, and that was
the same thing we do every time.
Lucien Bouchard, and there was I can't remember if it was This Hour or if it was Royal Canadian Air Force, but they were interviewing him. They were interviewing Lucien Bouchard, and was it Lucien? Yeah, Lucien Bouchard. Being interviewed, and they're sitting there talking away, and they're asking him questions, and all of a sudden everything just starts shaking. It's like, oh my God, is that an earthquake? No, because I am the opposition, I have to keep the country united. That was René Lévesque rolling over in his grave. It was pretty funny. And then there's another one. They go, but don't you want to separate the Canada? Or, you swore to the crown and blah. He goes, the monarchy. Look at them all. Prince Charles separated. Prince Andrew separated. Princess Margaret separated. Tabarnak, they're all separated.
I love it. Okay. We have something on the greens, but you know what? We're actually going to bring it to you tomorrow instead, because we're running a little long on time, and there's something else I wanted to show you that's more in theme with what we're doing today. Now, the Liberals not only getting good news in terms of polling, they're getting other little bits of good news. Mark Carney was able to convince Anita Anand to run again. Well, it seems that he's been able to convince somebody else to run again too. Former Minister of Housing, Sean Fraser. He's back. Kids and Cubs.
He is back.
It would seem that he had discussions with Mr. Carney about the work-life balance that is required to be a politician, and that Mr. Carney assured him that he would definitely take that into consideration if he would return.
Yeah, and let's just say in Atlantic Canada, people are going, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Now, oops, villain's lair again. There we go. Also, in another bit of good news, it would appear that Christy Clark has decided to take a pass.
Really? Is that what we're calling it?
That's what we're calling it. Jazz Johal, who is a journalist in British Columbia, CKNW radio host of the Jazz Johal Show, former Global National China Bureau Chief and South Asia Bureau Chief, and a former MLA as well. Wow. Posted, former BC Premier Christy Clark sent supporters, quote, I wanted to run, but the party wouldn't let me, note, as the Liberals acclaim Ernie Classen as their candidate in South Surrey, White Rock. Quote, An update. Hello, friends. I wanted you to know I won't be running as a candidate this election. I indicated a strong willingness to run. I wanted to take on the Conservatives and deliver a riding for our party that we don't currently hold. The party has moved in a different direction. That's politics. I will find other ways to contribute and look forward to connecting with you again through the campaign. Good luck to everyone in your riding. If there's any way I can contribute to helping you win, let me know. À bientôt, and let's keep in touch, Christy. Yeah, you can. Probably, but bullet dodged. So no Christy Clark to have to defend, and no having to bring Jean Charest into the fold. Okay, good. So 2 little bits of good news for the Liberals here. Then we get to PP. Mr. Grizzly, it would be in the notes a little lower where it says CPC, PP total flip.
I queued it up, but the timestamps you have don't exist because the clip I have is only 15 minutes.
Okay, then that is probably the wrong clip that copied when I sent it, but that is not a problem because I have it for you right here, actually, and I'll be able to send it to you. But you alluded to it in the comments, Mr. Grizzly, that Pierre Poilievre, when we showed you his previous comment saying that, well, that he's going to be there for all the people who are affected by the tariffs that are going to hit the automotive industry. He made another promise the other day. Wasn't yesterday? Was the day before yesterday, with regard to social programs. And it's not one that we expected from him at all, because again, he is the guy of, we are conservatives and we do not believe in big, costly government programs. So much so that he put a lot of political capital where his mouth is by voting against them. But now, apparently, once again, the guy who really wants you to believe that Mark Carney is stealing all of his policies, basically lifted the Liberal and NDP supply and confidence agreement wholesale.
Yeah, and you remember, remember this. This is important. At 2020, March of 2020, when COVID was raging.
I just want to be clear about something about the upcoming budget. Do you or don't you want to see special measures in there now? Because one would think that the federal government will have to have some for the country to deal with COVID-19.
I've just listed when you asked the question the first time, I answered it by saying that yes, we do believe that we need to lower taxes, eliminate regulatory red tape.
That doesn't exactly address COVID-19, though. In all
actually,
fairness,
in fairness, it might not address it the way you want to address it. You might want to address it through big fat government programs. We're conservatives, so we don't believe.
Yeah,
that was then.
Yeah.
That was him telling you, if you were Canadian, you're not worth us spending money.
You're on your own, punk.
Well, now, what's he saying now?
Just a second, I gotta pull up the queue.
This one surprised me, I have to say, because it creates 2 problems for him. Instant ones.
Oh yeah, it's flip-flop boy, as I like to call him, is once again, meeting the moment by telling you what he wants you to hear.
Prime Minister, given your past opposition to expanding federal healthcare programs, do you plan to roll back these initiatives if elected?
We will protect these programs, and no one who has them will lose them. And
you voted against
them. I would note, let's go through them one at a time. We will make sure that nobody loses their dental care. We will also, on child care, we all believe that there should be more affordable child care in this country. The Liberals, though, have imposed a massive top-down bureaucratic system that has actually meant 120,000 fewer kids have daycare spaces than when they first created the program. a third more families are struggling to get childcare spaces than when the Liberals first created this program. Now they're making even more promises on the eve of an election, and in order to get a fourth term in power after the lost Liberal decade. Why do we have worse childcare today than when the Liberals took office? Because they've imposed top-down, government knows best rules that have shut down private daycares that don't meet the government knows best model, the one-size-fits-all model, and most of the money has been consumed by bureaucracy. So while honoring the agreements on childcare with the provinces, we're going to give more freedom and flexibility to parents, providers, and provinces to support the childcare of all the kids. Why would we leave? Why do the Liberals want to leave kids out in the cold if their parents are night shift workers or work on weekends? Why do they want to leave kids out in the cold if their parents have opted for private childcare or home-based childcare? We should support all childcare options by having more flexibility. Then parents can decide which childcare options they favor. Provinces can decide how to deliver those services on the front line with more flexibility and freedom for parents, provinces, and providers. We'll massively expand the availability of childcare and reduce the bureaucracy that stands in the way.
Okay. Be careful on that, because remember when the Conservatives did childcare last time, right? It was a tax credit.
Yeah, and that's what 100.
You had to have the money to front first, and then you got a small little portion of that back, and it was distributed to so many people, diluted, that it was basically
$160 a month is what you got. So please explain to me how that's going to put a dent in $1,500 or $1,800 a month that people were paying previously.
So he's not committing to keeping the program as it is and adding on options for all that other stuff. Right? So be careful and make sure you're reading the fine print, that he's not talking about taking that pool of money that exists and repurposing it for a different type of childcare financing. That'll give you more choice and more flexibility and a whole lot less money.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But all of a sudden, he believes in these programs. He's keeping them, and he's not going to take them away from anyone. So again, Kits and Cubs, remember, he is going to cut taxes by $6 billion a year for the first 2 years, and then by $7 billion a year for the first 2 years, and then $14 billion a year. That's just gone. He's going to do absolutely nothing for the climate, so there's going to be increasing bills that come up with that. He is promising seniors an extra top up on the basic personal exemption, which is going to cost more money. He is going to make sure that we meet the 2% of GDP on NATO, but he's also going to balance the budget. He's already spent the foreign aid money. He said he's going to cut on the military base in Iqaluit. $1 billion from CBC is not going to pay for all these extra tax cuts, and now he's going to maintain all the programs he said he would cut to fund those things in the first place. Again, where's he going to find the money?
Conservatives like to tell you that they're good fiscal managers. History tells us otherwise. History tells us otherwise. They've mismanaged.
They have
for decades. Any chance they've had by grabbing the brass ring and forming parliament, they have never managed the books well. Never. Not once. As a matter of fact, under Harper, more individuals, working class and middle class, were harmed by his economics than at any other time in Canadian history since the Great Depression.
Yep.
But people say things were better under Harper, and I'm like, there's no metric that would support that. Well, housing went up under Trudeau. Yes, it did. And he had exactly what to do with that again? Housing's a provincial matter. You had federal management systems that handed over federal lands to private developers when they could have done what the Trudeau government did and create the housing startup fund and build public housing. Instead, They handed public lands over to private developers who laughed all the way to the bank.
Right.
They don't care about you. They never have. And again, they're not progressive and they're not conservative. They're the Reform Party under another name. Remember that, folks.
So BP's first problem, the math doesn't math financially. Second, all the red baseball capped people who wanted all these policies taken away. He's just flipped on them the way that Aaron Toole flipped on environment.
And remember when they had that leadership race and Aaron O'Toole was elected conservative leader, what was it, 70% of the party said climate change is not a real thing?
Pierre is pivoting to the middle again because he's losing, just like Aaron O'Toole before him, just like Andrew Scheer before him. And that's all of you who hate watch us. We told you he would do this.
It's not a surprise to us.
He was not one of you. He never was. He's a chameleon.
He, as we have said.
What face do you want me to wear
as we've
today?
said time and time again, he'll say and do whatever he has to win the nanosecond. That's it.
But you can't play the long game because you plant the seeds to your own demise.
Okay with that.
Next question.
Garde d'enfant. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Next question. Hi, Per. I'm Surya from Y Media.
Yes, sir.
So, Globe and Mail has done a story on election in...
What media?
I wasn't able to understand the name of the media, unfortunately.
Try that again.
Y Media.
Vine Media?
Beaucoup.
Thank you. Next question.
I don't know.
Hi, Per. I'm Surya from Y Media.
Yes, sir.
So, Globe and Mail has done a story on election interference on conservative leadership campaign. What are your comments on that?
Well, first of all, let's quote from that Globe and Mail article. I'm going to quote here. CSIS also did not have evidence that Mr. Poilievre or members of his inner circle were aware of these alleged actions. Then I'm going to quote the Hope Commission, and I quote, "The Commission heard testimony about allegations of the government India interference in the Conservative Party leadership race. CSIS witnesses noted that they had no reason to believe the impacted candidates would have been aware of the alleged support." Let's be honest. I won the leadership fair and square. Even my political competitors, like Mr. Patrick Brown, have publicly testified under oath that that was the case. But I'm glad that the Liberals put this attack out today. Really glad. Because there's something that's really been worrying me. After Justin Trudeau named Mark Carney his economic advisor, giving him massive power over public policy in Canada, Mr. Carney went over for meetings in Beijing where he just had secret talks with the deputy governor of the Chinese central bank. 2 weeks later, Brookfield got a $250 million loan. What did they talk about? What did Mr. Carney in his role as Trudeau's economic advisor offer China? Why would he be having secret meetings with top government-controlled bankers about getting a $250 million loan while he was supposed to be acting in Canada's interest as the Prime Minister's economic advisor?
Why is he not answering the goddamn question?
And let's put that there. He was supposed to be, when he was there with Brookfield, he was supposed to be acting in the fiduciary interest of the shareholders of Brookfield, not as the advisor of the Prime Minister of Canada.
Also,
he's lying.
Let's remember also, $250 million, so a $250 million loan for a company that manages $3 trillion in assets?
And is worth
trillion.
And I looked it up today. It's worth $97.5 billion.
Come on. Come on. That's a cup of coffee for those folks. But we'll continue.
Why would he be collaborating with a hostile foreign regime that we have since learned executed 4 Canadians and took numerous Canadians hostage for a lengthy period of time?
Oh, really?
And given that Mr. Carney knows that he still owns massive financial interests in Brookfield, which owes $250 million.
We don't know what his assets are because they're in a blind trust. Carney doesn't know.
Yep. And as we showed you on the show,
we don't know.
They could have been sold the instant he put them in there.
Correct. So that's
a lie.
A lie.
A lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
To a Chinese state-controlled bank. How do we know he's not going to act against our interests in favor of his financial interests? Why didn't he stand in front of this microphone and confess to Canadians that he owes the Chinese government that kind of money? Is this why he's covering up his financial interests? And given that China has...
What the hell is he talking about?
And why didn't you come to a microphone and confess that you have a deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada?
Well, and let's not forget FIPA. FIPA. Signed in secret in Russia.
Yeah.
Has murdered our people, taken our people hostage. How is he ever going to stand up to foreign interference when he is so financially compromised? We have never in our history had a weak, out-of-touch leader so terribly compromised and conflicted.
Pot, meat, kettle.
Whose interests go against our national interests. And I call on Mr. Carney right now to come before a microphone today and explain if this loan is still in place and if he still has those Brookfield assets that he had up until a few weeks ago.
He wouldn't know.
Because we cannot trust someone. Could you imagine, while you're supposed to be advising Canada's Prime Minister on the well-being of our economy, going to a foreign regime that had executed Canadian citizens, taken Canadians hostage, that it had already been public that they had interfered in multiple elections. They've done incursions into our northern waters. Mark Carney will never be able to protect our national interests because he has massive financial conflicts of interest overseas. What we need now is not to give the Liberals...
For the umpteenth time, we don't know what his assets are. They're placed in a blind trust. He doesn't know what they are. This fucking guy.
But Pierre knows what his assets are.
Yeah, but he won't talk about them.
A fourth term with a weak and compromised leader. What we need is a prime minister who will put Canada first for a change.
For a change?
Okay. Girl is working hard. She's spinning. She works hard for the money. Spinning way hard. I don't know if you have the little YouTube thing, but spinning faster than Lucinda Rue. And if that is a cryptic reference to you, Lucinda Rue was a very, 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 very famous figure skater from Switzerland, several times national champion, who on April 3rd, 2003, set the world record for most continuous upright spins on ice. 105 revolutions at the Rockefeller Plaza outdoor, beating the previous record of 60. He is spinning faster than she is right now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Number one, let's start with I won fair and square. Even Patrick Brown testified so, because I remember. Mr. Grizzly, if you will.
Leadership campaign paid legal fees of whistleblower who took down rival Patrick Brown. The whistleblower's allegation that Brown broke election law ultimately led him to being disqualified from the race last July. Why would his rival pay the legal fees of a whistleblower?
But he won fair and square. And then he paid $50,000 to skip a debate, didn't he?
Yes.
But he won fair and square. And now he's offering to pay $75,000 for someone to pay a shakedown fee to participate, but he intends to win square and fair. And he has a deferred prosecution agreement for cheating an election, but he wins fair and square.
This money, this man throws around money like it's nothing to him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how much? What was his expenses last year versus the prime minister's?
Mm-hmm. A lot more.
Yeah,
a lot more. And then, as you mentioned in the commentary, Mr. Grizzly, wait, what? The guy from the party who signed us on to FIPA.
Yeah.
31 years deal with China, which literally was a secret deal because we still don't know everything that's in it that gave him the right to say. So if the standard now is that making a secret deal with anyone related China is bad.
And he said China, which is a shocker.
Yeah. Well, yes, because it's liberals' end, right?
Mm-hmm. This was signed in 2014. So we've still got, what, 19 years left on the deal?
Yeah. I think we can get out of it. So there was an early escape clause that came out at some point. I hope it gets activated. And then at the end, all that stuff that he's talking about, it really sounds like he's saying that anybody who does, if you do any type of business with China in any way, shape, or form, you can't be trusted. So did Pierre just announce a new China policy that his government would not do any business at all in China? Because that's the only way he would be able to maintain the level of integrity that matches his level of very well rehearsed indignation here.
And he never even answered the fucking question.
Oh, no, not at all.
He pivoted like he always does and then points the finger of blame at somebody else and he lied repeatedly and made false accusations because, nobody knows what it's called, a blind trust for a reason, you dickhead.
Yeah. The question may remind you is this news article about in the Globe and Mail about CSIS finding out, saying how India interfered to help get you elected in the 2022 campaign, whether you knew or not, but you couldn't know because you didn't have the security clearance for CSIS to tell you, by the way. So saying that the article says I didn't know a thing, that's not a virtue in this case.
No.
Because you could have and should have known, but you chose not to. You didn't even ask. And still, he hasn't even asked.
Nope.
They could give it to me if they need to give me something, but he has not actually asked. He has not shown any interest whatsoever in getting any information at all. Right? The question was, that news report came out, what do you say to it?
Yeah.
Brookfield, China, blah, 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 the 200. So if that's the standard, we're in trouble. Then he answers a question. That time stamp doesn't seem right. I think the first one is correct, but the second one's not, because I definitely didn't. It's not a 2-second clip. He's asked a question in French, and then he says two things in that answer that really made my jaw drop and that reveal a lot about him. I believe it would be 50-58, Mr. Grizzly.
Queued up.
All right.
Beaucoup de vos questions. Premièrement, j'ai déjà eu mon code de sécurité, mais ce que je ne vais pas faire, c'est permettre le gouvernement de me taire. Ils ne veulent pas que je sois capable de parler librement de ces enjeux-là en me forçant de signer de faire un engagement de secret. Je ne travaille pas pour le gouvernement, je suis le chef de l'opposition. Et ce que les libéraux veulent faire, c'est de m'empêcher de parler ouvertement. Par exemple, s'ils me disent quelque chose qui est de peu d'importance en privé par rapport à la Chine, ils peuvent après ça dire « Oh, vous ne pouvez pas parler de la Chine parce que maintenant vous êtes briefé et vous ne pouvez pas partager rien. » Alors c'est ça leur jeu. Et on sait qu'ils sont en train de politiser ça C'est pour ça qu'ils ont fait une fuite politique pendant les élections. Mais la réalité, c'est que c'est M. Carney qui doit expliquer comment il va défendre les intérêts du
So, in there, he's giving the same answer as he gives in English. I already got my security clearance, and they're trying to muzzle me. But he added a couple of things new that he's not been saying in English. First one, saying they want to muzzle me. I don't work for the government. I'm the leader of the opposition. The leader of the opposition has the word honorable in the title for a reason.
He has no honor.
You are not working for the government when you apprise yourself of national security information, secret compartmentalized information, of which everybody says you should be aware in order to defend the country and defend your party. That's not the work of the government. That is the work of Canada. But you don't want to do it because you're not the government. You're the leader of the opposition. This is not a government thing. It's national safety and security. 2 goes, and say, if they tell me anything, like, for example, they give me an insignificant piece of information about China, but then they can go to me and say, oh, now you can't talk about China at all now. It's like, and c'est pour ça qu'ils ont fait une fuite. That's why they coordinated this leak. He's accusing the government of coordinating the leak. So those are 2 new little bits of information. And Mr. Grizzly, if you'd go to 5255, and this one is just 27 seconds, so go to 5322, he gives another little smarm thing that he can't help himself that reveals a lot about him.
Je n'ai aucune information par rapport à M. Aria, donc c'est aux libéraux d'expliquer leur raisonnement. Troisièmement, je vais parler... en passant, ils vont simplement dire qu'ils ne peuvent pas en parler parce que c'est tout des secrets. Donc, il veut me faire la même chose, me forcer de ne pas parler de ces enjeux-là. Mais heureusement, je suis assez sage pour ne pas jouer leur jeu.
Okay,
Troisièmement, sur le débat...
Asked about Arya Chandra. And says, I don't have anything to say about that. That's their internal stuff. But, if I was told anything about that, I would not be able to say anything because these are secrets, right? And they'll probably say the same thing. Ask them. We can't say anything because this is confidential. So, but I am smart enough to not get caught in their little game. National security is a little game that he's too smart to get caught up in. A leak that the liberals organized.
I would never be able to interview him. Never. Never. Because I'd be yelling at him the whole time. Yelling at him saying, why do you lie every time you open your mouth? Are you capable of speaking without lying? I sincerely mean that. Is he capable of speaking without lying? Because every presser he holds, the amount of bullshit that flows out of his mouth is astonishing.
I don't work for the government. I'm the leader of the opposition.
Okay, so
I have no need to defend Canada.
Your expense account is cut. Your housing is diminished. It's gone. You don't get to live at Stornoway anymore. You get no housing subsidies. Your office that we pay for and the staff that's coming out of your own pocket now. Christ almighty, what an asshole.
Right? Right?
What an asshole.
The sooner his political career is over and for good, the better.
Oh my
Could you imagine sitting in front of a microphone and saying that on a matter of national security and being proud of yourself the way he was? And then accusing the government of having orchestrated the leak.
Jay's
Oh my
right about
God.
this. Pierre Poilievre will get the uneducated vote. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those who don't have time. Well, I wouldn't say uneducated. How about uninformed vote?
Yeah. And then he thinks it's a matter, all of this is a sign that he's too clever to get caught up in the game. That sound you hear, that's narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking. I heard that and my jaw dropped.
Nothing he says surprises
Try
me.
to. There might be a reason he's not saying that in English.
You think?
Wow. Mr. Grizzly, do you happen to have anything else you would like to bring today?
One thing I want to share quickly, I'm going to go back to Danielle Smith. And I need to put this on the screen to remind Canadians and Albertans especially who Danielle Smith is. Friendly reminder of who Danielle Smith is meeting next week. Ben Shapiro. Justin Trudeau. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. Ben Shapiro. When we take Canada, you will be expelled to Panama to work the canal. When we take Canada. And she's going down there to meet with that little shit. Remember that, Albertans. Remember that, Canadians. She is a traitor to our country. And no, she can go to hell. She can go all the way to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
She is not on Team Canada. She's on Team who puts the most money in my pocket.
Yeah. When I see some of the comments in the chats here, lots of Albertans are not happy with what's going on. I can imagine so.
Well,
you didn't sign up for this.
One more
Even
thing.
those of you who are conservative, you did not sign up for this.
No, you did not. You did not sign up for this.
Legitimate, good conservative-minded people, I guess, who are our friends and our neighbors and who we love and we respect, even though we don't necessarily agree on everything.
We're never going to see eye to eye on everything.
Like, come on. Even you don't support that.
Well, listen to this. This was written yesterday at 10 a.m. It's a tweet thread. I'm going to read. It's not too long. It's just a few tweets. But this is a gentleman. His name is Chris. @SkipIsChris. So I wonder if he's a curler. I'm not a journalist. I'm an Alberta dad, husband, and trades worker. Over the past few days, I've been reading everything I can about the CSIS findings regarding Pierre Poilievre's compromised position and lack of security clearance. Here's what I've found. CSIS issued serious concerns about foreign interference and influence surrounding Pierre Poilievre's leadership race. The language in their report didn't hedge. They flagged vulnerabilities they considered disqualifying. The implications are massive. If Pierre Poilievre became prime minister, he would not receive full security clearance. This means no access to the most sensitive intelligence Canada holds in an unstable world. That's not a small detail. I have to question that. Because I think when you're PM, you automatically get it, do you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the loophole at the moment that needs to be closed.
That needs to be closed. And it should be closed, and it should be the way this gentleman just described it.
Right.
He should not get full security clearance until he undergoes the process. So on March 24th and 25th, multiple outlets reported that CSIS officials off the record confirmed Poilievre was compromised. The next day at a campaign rally, he dismissed CSIS as a liberal apparatus. That is dangerous rhetoric. CSIS does not work for liberals or conservatives. It works for Canada. Suggesting otherwise undermines faith in our democratic institutions, the very institutions designed to protect all Canadians, regardless of party. This can't be stressed enough. Canada's National Security Agency deemed him a risk, and instead of addressing it, he attacked the credibility of the agency itself. That's reckless. That's dangerous. That's not leadership. If the person asking Canadians for the keys to the country can't even be trusted with classified intel, how can he be trusted to lead in good faith, with sound judgment, and in Canada's best interest? Is this putting Canada first? I'll say it again. I'm not a journalist, just a husband, a dad, a working Canadian watching this unfold, and I'm deeply troubled. Our national security isn't a political prop. It's not a campaign tool. It's the bedrock of a sovereign nation. We all deserve leaders who respect that. Vote wisely. Now, I think he's got a couple of things in there that might not be entirely accurate, but the spirit of it, I agree with. And I think a lot of Canadians are in that same boat. They're going like, hold on a second here. Why does he keep deflecting? He was asked a question in his presser, and he deflected and talked about Mark Carney. Remember how Pierre Poilievre had nothing but Justin Trudeau in his mind now? He used to smile at him across the aisle, lovingly. Well, he has a new object of his affection.
Yeah.
Central banker, Mark Carney.
Yep, indeed. Before we go, Kits and Cubs, since we have a few minutes and we haven't done it in the last little bit of news about Canadians who make us proud. First of all, big congratulations to Team Homan. The Homan Empire reigns supreme for the second year in a row. World Curling Champions. Boom. 2 years in a row, they have not lost a game in the playoffs at all. So, the first Canadian female curler as a skip to repeat as back-to-back world champions since Sandra Schmirler back in 93-94. The legendary Sandra Schmirler, who has the foundation for whom Canadians raised over $1 million to help children that need NICU services and neonatal services. So great achievement there for Team Homan. As well, Sarah Mitten, whose name you might remember, she competed at the Beijing Olympics and was very favored to win gold in shot put, but unfortunately it was a rainy day and kind of slipped and fell out of the circle. Well, she too retained her world shot put gold medal at the World Athletic Indoor Championships. So repeats as World Indoor Shot Put title holder. Evan Dunphy, who we've talked about and we are trying to get as a guest on our show. Race walker. Often calls himself a perennial fourth placer. Although he does have a silver medal from the London Olympics. Set a world record. Thank you very much. In the 35-kilometer race walk. Clocked in at 2 hours, 21 seconds and 2 hours, 21 minutes and 40 seconds to knock 7 seconds off the previous mark.
Nice.
Michael Kingsbury, the King, wins his 9th career world title. His 4th straight gold medal in dual moguls, his 9th career world title and 15th career medal at the World Championships, following a silver medal in moguls 2 days earlier.
When you consider how long his career has lasted in the sport that he's in, it is astonishing that he is still at the level that he's at.
I'm amazed he can still walk.
This is the thing.
The
Moguls
knees?
are hard on the body, man.
It was the 3rd medal for Canada at the Worlds. In women's ski cross, Courtney Hoffus won her 1st career world championship medal, finishing 2nd in the women's big final, and Megan Oldman won her 4th career world championships medal, taking bronze in the women's ski slopestyle. Liam Brearley put down a clean 2nd run at the 2025 Fédération Internationale du Ski Snowboard World Championships to win gold in the men's snowboard slopestyle. Another world champion from Canada. And it turns out also, Kits and Cubs, if you had any doubt, because I never did, because I keep on saying Canada, where the women are strong and the men are pretty, well, it turns out that Superwoman, Kits and Cubs, is actually Canadian. There is a woman here in Canada that competes in something called ultra triathlon.
Yes, yeah. I read
Her
about
name,
this the other day. I was like, oh my good Lord.
her name is Shanda Hill. She completed the South Africa Deca Ultra Triathlon, becoming the first and only woman to complete the race. And she did it in 279 hours and 30 minutes. 38 kilometers of swimming, 1,800 kilometers of cycling, and 422 kilometers of running through crushing heat, injury, and exhaustion. She finished second overall,
yeah,
men and women, and was the only woman to ever complete it. And she's already thinking of her next one.
I read about that the other day. I sent that to Bridget, and she was like, holy crap. Like, that's beyond. That's beyond anything I could ever possibly imagine doing.
That's nuts. So, Mr. Grizzly, what I'm going to do is, we'll do the closeout, and then I have a picture because I think she deserves to be seen.
Oh, yeah.
That we can put up. Do we have a show, sir?
We do indeed.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We love it when you do, especially our election coverage. Please get the word out. Thank you so very much. Now, if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode of ours in podcast form, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl who sponsors our pod page. That QR code that's just under my chin there will bring you right there. And if you are listening, podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver, all in lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. Go there, click subscribe, and when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, boom, drops right into you. Now, if you'd like to help us in yet other ways, for example, by surfing on down to our YouTube page, where greater than 14,200 of you have so far. Thank you so very much. And I'm sure that Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will be urging you to smash with our buttons if you haven't already. Please do like, share, and subscribe. We're waiting for you. And when you do, it helps us with the algorithm immensely. So thank you very much for this. We very much appreciate it. And it's nice to see our numbers going up during our special election coverage as well. So please keep telling your friends, especially if you're looking for 100% by Canadian for Canadian analysis of what's going on. If you would like to help us in yet another ways, because we do incur some financial costs to bring this show to you, please, kids and cubs, you can help us out with a generous donation to our coffee page, or what we call affectionately the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. That QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you right there. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there's the lovely Miss Lola. If you make a little donation there, you earn our undying gratitude, number one. Plus, it makes you instantly 18.7% more interesting at parties. It just does. Because being informed is very, very, very magnetic. It's attractive. And of course, but you would know that because you watch the show. You have exceptionally good taste. Best damn fam in all podcasting. Thank you so much. So if you're able to help, thank you so much. If you would like to help us more directly by making your transaction 100% Canadian and not going through the CE tech bros, then just do a direct transfer through your bank at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is also the address at which you can write us if you would like to let us know what you think, because if you're not able to donate financially, it doesn't matter, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter most to us. You can also write to us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, at True Eager, at The Bad Place on the Jitter, and at Facebook, True North Eager Beaver, or if you're listening here on YouTube, right down below in our comment section. We do read everything, but we're not able to answer everybody. But we do thank you, because everything you say helps us make the show better. And we appreciate your input. Because democracy is something that you do. Again, if you are in the province of Quebec, there is a Quebec Liberal leadership race. So you might want to be informed about your candidates. But of course, there's the federal one as well. And do remember that Elections Canada does have job postings up right now. They're looking for advanced poll workers and poll workers for the election. So if you want an opportunity to boost your income a little bit by doing some work that's actually meaningful, that you'll get a lot out of with some really good people who are actually equally committed to democracy. Usually good people show up to do this type of thing. So it's a good time. It is hard work, but it is good time. So I highly recommend that everybody do it at least once in their life. It's electionscanada.ca, I believe, is the website. And that's where you go. And it's right up front. And I hope that you do. All right. Mr. Grizzly, do you have any words of wisdom?
Yeah. When your dog is begging to go out, you better take her.
All right.
She's really
there you go.
out.
Then, good sir, please roll the credits.
I will do that.
Oh, you are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. I just sent it to you there, Mr. Grizzly, so that we can see who this wonderful superwoman is. But yeah, I could not imagine putting my body through all of that. That's just absolutely phenomenal that what she has done. And that's her name again is Shanda Hill.
Pretty insane what she did.
Yeah. That would probably be the look on my face after having to hold up a flag after doing all that. What you want me to? Yeah. This thing's so heavy.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm pooped.
I have a quick video clip I want to share with you that I think you'll get a big kick out of. It's about a minute and a half, and then I got to run. I really got to get Lola out. Check this out. This is kind of funny. I'll change it up to this. There we go.
Please tell me I'm not the only one that when you hear Pierre Poilievre speak, all I can hear is Skeletor from He-Man. Please tell me I'm not the only one. Okay, it goes like this. Okay, it goes like this. And the Conservative Party has a plan, and we're going to do that plan. Not yet, because we don't have one. And we're scrambling at the moment. And when we think of Mark Carney, we think, Meow! Just imagine, Meow! I can't unhear it. And I hope now you can't either, because I can't. It's been driving me insane. I know, this is terrible. It's -2 out of 10. I get it. From a Canadian perspective, Meow! Meow! Oh my God, who am I? Oh, hello. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Thanks for coming along for the ride. That was a blast.
We might get hear it now. On that one.
Yeah, you can't unhear it now.
Oh God.
Alrighty. Gotta
Have
go.
a perfect day, everyone.
We'll see you later.